Okay, it's 10 o'clock and we are now live. Welcome to the Place and Resources Overview Committee on Friday the 17th of September. We will move straight on to the agenda, and item 1 on the agenda is apologies. Do we have any apologies?
Yes, Chairman, apologies from Councillor Roland Tarr.
Thank you. Item 2 is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations under the Code of Conduct? And I'll just remind members that if they realise they have a declarable interest at any time during the meeting, please make us aware of it so we can record that interest. Thank you. Are there any interests? No, I hear none. So we move on to item 3, which is the chairman's update. I think because we've not had a meeting for some time, I will remind members and the public that at the annual meeting of council on the 4th of May, it was agreed that all council meetings that are not executive in nature will continue to be held virtually. Where a decision is required, committee members will express a minded to decision in respect of that recommendation set out in the officer's report, with decisions being taken under officer delegated authority in the light of that minded to decisions expressed by members in this virtual meetings. Recommendations to cabinet will also be confirmed under the relevant officer delegated authority. Right, item number 4, public participation. You'd be sad to hear that we have no questions or statements. And item 5 on the agenda is questions from members, and again we have no questions or statements. I think because of the complexity of the local plan, I'm content to allow questions from members other than the committee members throughout that discussion. Okay, item 6 is the updated Dorset Council plan. We have the reporting officer is Becky Forrester. Are you there?
Yes,
could you give your
I'm
report,
here.
please? Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, members. So just quickly by way of background, you'll remember that the original or the first Dorset Council plan was agreed before the COVID pandemic struck, and as a result makes no mention of COVID or anything we've learned or any of the implications, given that life has changed beyond recognition as a result of the pandemic. So the request was that we update the plan specifically through the kind of lens of COVID and the pandemic. The report that you've got before you shows those new sections that have been added as a result of discussions with both officers and members that are flagged in yellow. So apologies, it's not a very attractive report, but that seemed like the easiest way of highlighting those new additions to you. The report follows an informal session that was had with members of both overview committees at the end of July. We were keen, and I think the chairman were keen, that we have an informal session to flesh out the draft before it came to your committee today formally. So obviously very much hope that what you've got in front of you is familiar to you and reflects the changes that you discussed then. One of the most significant changes that was suggested was actually in relation to the climate and ecological emergency strategy, which has been agreed since the new council was formed. So not within the COVID realm particularly, but there was, I think, a strong appetite amongst members that move from being a cross-cutting priority as it was to being actually the first priority in the plan. So that's a new addition to flag with you. The request here today is for any final feedback from you before it goes to the Cabinet in October. It was also discussed formally at the People and Health Overview Committee on the 2nd of September. And there, I think we've got some members who were there, which is helpful, so they can add anything that I've missed. But I think key feedback from that discussion was that it is a lengthy document. And I agree, it is a lengthy document, and there are areas probably where we can sharpen it. I think there was also desire to see a closer link drawn between the first part of the document, which sets out some of those challenges that we face, and our responses. So officers will endeavour to do that before a final version goes to Cabinet in October. I think it is just worth saying that when the wording is agreed, the final version, two things: we will produce a plan on a page version, so there will be a summary version that sits alongside the full version, and obviously the full version will be properly formatted and finished, so it looks like a professional document, not the kind of slightly scruffy one that you've got before you today. I think that's all I wanted to say by way of background, but very happy to take any questions.
No, I think that's excellent, Becky. I will bring in Councillor Peter Wharf, who's the portfolio holder for the corporate development and change. Peter, would you like to say a few words?
Thank you, Chair. I think I agree. I think that was an excellent introduction. I think the whole purpose is to refresh what was very, very extensively consulted on, and we're looking to refresh where appropriate, but not to make massive changes, because that wasn't the intention. One of the things we said right at the beginning was, because people said you haven't got that in, you haven't got that in. If everything's a priority, nothing's a priority. And so we've got the different themes, and we recognise that there will be tensions between all of the themes. And personally, I'm comfortable about putting climate change as another theme, because they're all cross-cutting. I wouldn't say it's the first in, it's the most important. It is clearly absolutely critical, but they're all critical because they all interrelate. So I think it's really important, and I personally quite like the idea of climate change coming out from a cross-cutting theme to a key theme, because everything, as far as I'm concerned, is cross-cutting. I particularly look forward to a plan on a page, because that is something that I think we need to have extensive communications about. And the final thing is, what's in a name? And the answer is quite a lot, in my view. Since you have discussed it and made a suggestion, and it's your call as to what suggestion you do put forward, since you've made the suggestion that it may be better with a different name, I've talked to comms, and I have to say they didn't seem that keen on it, because they think we've built up some brand. But I personally don't have, I'm certainly not going to die in a ditch about it. It's something I think worthy of quite considerable discussion, because if you believe that the name doesn't properly impart the purpose and the means, then maybe we do need to think about it. I don't think it's too late, but I think we do need to think about it very carefully before we make any decision. And if we do make that decision, it needs to be something that's seen as an unambiguous improvement. So I'm particularly going to be interested to hear the comments of your members today. Happy to answer questions at any time, Chairman.
Thank you, Peter. Thank you. I think it's excellent, to be honest, that the plan has been revised in this way, because we've always talked about these sorts of plans being working documents. And the very nature of that is they are taken out of the filing cabinet, they are altered, they are changed throughout their lifetime. And it's been something that's been sadly missing with previous Dorset plans, or Dorset County Council plans, or whatever. So it's good to see it's come out the cupboard already. It's had these reviews and changes, which are before us this morning. We'll open up questions to the officers. We've got Les. Where are you, Les? Are you doing your normal?
I'm sorry, the doorbell went, but I couldn't leave, so I've listened to every word. I'm here, and the first person to speak is Councillor Sherry Jesperson, please.
Thank you, Sherry.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Excuse me. A couple of comments. First, to say, I think this is by and large a very good document, very useful. Thank you very much for taking on board all the points that were made in the informal meeting that we had about this. So, that was a useful way of doing it, so that we nitpicked, as it were, before at a previous meeting. In terms of the name, I do think that the problem still stands with the confusion between the Dorset plan and the Dorset local plan. But I must say, I'm not keen, as a person with a background in comms, I'm not keen on the kind of fuzzy names like Forward with Dorset and all those things, because I think that they go out of style very quickly, and also they're meaningless. And I mean, as in they're meaningless, as in they don't contain any information, and they don't carry forward, so that every year you'd be giving another snazzy name to your plan, and I don't think that's helpful. So if we are going to change the name, and I'm not going to suggest anything better than the Dorset plan, then I would urge that it's a phrase like the Dorset plan, which actually describes what the document is, rather than a kind of title as you might give it, as if it were a novel. So, because I think that comes back to bite us later. That's just a personal view. In terms of content, this is a small point, and I've raised this with Councillor Wolf already. I read somewhere that, and I can't find it again, so Bridget, perhaps somebody else Becky can find this somewhere else, that Dorset Council is the 5th largest council in the country out of 300 and something councils, the 5th largest in terms of area and the 12th largest in terms of population. Somebody needs to check that. If that is the case, I think it's worth mentioning that in our plan, because there is a tendency to think it's little old Dorset. And in fact, now we are a unitary council. We are a big and significant and important council. We're not little old Dorset anymore at all. And I think it would be quite helpful to indicate that we are, nationally, we are a big council. And that means in terms of our clout, that's important, but it's also in terms of the challenges we face. It's worth just explaining how big we are. So if somebody is ever able to find where I saw those little factoids and check them, I would like to see that in there somewhere. Other than that, I would like to say I think this is an excellent report. Can I just finally ask, how often are we going to review this? Is it something that's reviewed annually on a rolling programme? I
think, Sherry, to be honest, there is an annual review set down, but it's basically like other documents in the council. You really do want them to be working documents, and when there's an amendment required, it's done. I mean, that's my mind. I know Bridget wants to come back to some of the points you posed. Yes, Bridget,
my point about the review, in which case, if this is if this document is regularly reviewed, then I'm not too exercised about the fact that at this point it's rather long, because I think that's something, as we review it, as we go forward, we can address that, and we might be able to tighten it up a bit over time. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Sherry. I think the points about the geographical size of the county is really important. And I've just quickly looked while you were speaking to our population section and the natural and geographical and historic environment section. They're certainly not mentioned there. So if they are right, then I think you're right in that they should be included. Bridget.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I can confirm that one of our researchers has looked this up for us, and we are the 5th largest unitary authority in England by size and the 8th largest by population, but clearly there are counties and metropolitan authorities that are larger. So I think I think it's a good suggestion, and we should put it in there somewhere, either in the forward from the leader of the council, or else in the context bit, Chairman, that you were just referring to.
Yep.
So, and I think I can see that Councillor Wolf wants to make a comment about reviews, but just to support your point, Chairman, that I think this is absolutely a case in point, isn't it, that we decided that as a result of the pandemic we should review the plan, so we're reviewing the plan. I mean, I think in general terms it would be, you know, reviewed towards the end of the life of the plan, but there will always be times ahead of that where we may well need to review it for particular reasons, because it is absolutely our living guiding document. So I completely agree with you on that one, Chairman. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Bridget. Just quickly, if I could just call on Becky, are you capturing these points, Becky?
I am indeed, Chairman, yes.
Thank you. I just want to make sure they're being recorded. That's excellent. Thank you.
Chair, I think Peter Wolf wanted to comment there.
Peter, do you want to come back on this one?
Just on the, well, first of all, thank you to Bridget, who, following Sherry's conversation, I had a chat with Bridget, that she makes it sound as though it was completely straightforward. It wasn't, and we will put something in to reflect that, particularly if this committee think that's a good idea. In terms of the reviews, I mean, there is a balance between reviewing so regularly that people end up not understanding what it is trying to tell you, and making sure you take notice of events like the pandemic. So I'm absolutely in agreement that this is a working document. I don't want to review it too often, otherwise people end up not knowing what it's actually going to say because they don't know which version they're on. But we do need to review it. I think we need an informal review every year, and we need a review at the end of this council. We probably need a review at the beginning of the next council, and we need a review if any of the overview committees raise an issue that says, look, this needs to be thought about now because this has changed the way we operate, and we need a review if we get another pandemic, God forbid. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter. I'm sure we'll be able to review the reviewing dates. Anyway, moving on.
Chair, we've got a number of people wishing to speak, but maybe it's worth resolving the issue over the name of the title, because we've heard a couple of comments on that so far, and that's going to hang over us when we can deal with that straight away, if you think so.
I think that'll be part of the discussion, to be honest, and hopefully there will be input from the members who've asked to speak. I like Peter. I don't think there's an awful lot of reason to change the name, but that's just my personal opinion.
Next is Brian Heatley, then. If
I will then mention, before Brian speaks, that members other than the committee members had ample opportunity to put in questions prior to this meeting, and none were received. I will take questions from other members outside the committee, but if they can be brief, I don't expect long, lengthy questions to be made where answers will have to be found elsewhere and not at this meeting done. So, Brian.
Thank you, Chair. I'm a visitor here, and thank you for letting me speak. I'll be very brief. Councillor Wolf will remember during the consultations on the plan that the major point that we in the Green Group were concerned about was that the climate and ecological emergency was not a priority. So, and that was shared by quite a lot of the consultants. I'm absolutely delighted to see now that it is, and I just want to say thank you.
Thank you, Brian. We, of course, can build on that as the plan is reviewed and worked on. Thank you. Next one is Les. It's yourself, is it not?
Yeah, I've got a few points. As you know, I mentioned yesterday, I wanted to bring up. We've discussed the name already, and we've discussed the time span for that, which is fine. Page 11, the top, the retirement here. We've got a lot of people retiring to Dorset, and I just feel that should be mentioned in there somewhere, because that's going to impact on our services and what we do. I'm just trying to find it now. Yeah, I've got it there. Dorset's an attractive place for people to settle in their retirement. Well, we know that a lot of people are moving here. Should mention it be made of that somewhere.
Yeah, I'm just
because that's impacting on the marginal decline in our working population as well.
I understand the point. I think more of the issue will be that sort of information is maintained somewhere else within Dorset Council. And maybe a reference to that other document might be useful. But again, it's a case.
Chairman, it's Bridget. Sorry to interrupt you. I think we could just look at rewording that first clause in the top of the second paragraph that says Dorset is an attractive place for people to settle in their retirement. I think we meant that to say lots of people retire to Dorset. So we'll just make that, which is the point that Councillor Fry is making. So we'll just tighten up the wording there a bit, Chairman, to reflect that.
Okay, that's good. But Councillor Fry, are we talking about the impact of those people retiring to Dorset?
Potentially, yes. I think we should be aware of that, because people looking at our plan and people, we all know that a lot of people are retiring to Dorset for various reasons. The fact that it's a lovely county is the main one, but that will have an impact on our services and the demand on our finances.
Yeah, understood. I'm sure that information is gathered in another place, and I think possibly Becky, if you could just look at that, and maybe just a case of a hyperlink within that document to other documents. Because again, one of my pet hates are these documents stand alone, and they shouldn't stand alone. They should be cross-referenced against the myriad of documents we've got and plans we've got in this council. Yep. So I think, yeah, it's worth considering putting some sort of hyperlink in there to the document or to the policy that holds that type of information. Your next point, Councillor Fry.
Bottom of page 1, just an update. The pandemic in Dorset up to the end of May 21, sadly 528. Can we have that the latest figure at the time that this goes to be published, or when it goes approved? Is that possible? We're now a few months out of date.
Yeah, I understand that. I think if that's not possible, then a date should be added at that point. So it's be 528 point at whenever point in time. Yeah, because we tend to move on and forget the fact that we've had these sad cases throughout the last 18 months.
Absolutely.
Any other points?
Page 16, how we do it. We've got in there in the bottom how we will do it. 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph down. High quality housing, that's a subjective view. And if you look at talking to people living in a persimmon home, they may not have the same as somebody living in another sort of home. And I just wonder whether that is the right wording there.
Yeah, understood. Not sure. Perhaps we can look at that wording, because you're right. It's perspective, isn't it? And every individual is different. And of course, high quality homes tend to lead to high quality prices as well, which is something else we could do without.
Or we can still have
high quality housing. It doesn't.
Councillor Dispersion, would you like to speak?
Sorry.
No, I know what Councillor Jesperson is going to say. The same thing as what I'm implying. You don't have to have expensive houses and still be high quality. We can have high quality, affordable homes. Is the point I want to put in there somewhere.
Okay.
Next one, point, page 18. We got protect people from harm from rogue traders and scammers. We should also ask in there fraud, because fraud is a very currently topical word, and just an insertion of a word I think will improve that paragraph and that information there.
Yep, spotted.
And then we move down to the Dorset Council Plan, and it covers the same things again about people retiring here on page 5 or page 29, and the number of charging points as well for electric cars in there. That's the one.
Page 5, you said?
Yeah, page 5. The electronics don't always work as quick as the brain works. So I'm looking at the top of that. You've got the 3 on the top there by 2029, and then you've got 150,000 people will retire. What about those retiring here? Is that worth a comment somewhere? Sorry,
can you explain that?
By 2029, 150,000 people will retire. If you look at the little figure there, the man with his hands up celebrating retirement, and 23,000 new jobs secured.
Yep.
Leaving. People are going to be moving in to Dorset at that point. Is my comment there somewhere.
So basically, you got.
It's not just our own
people retiring who are already here, plus others that will retire too. I'm not sure whether that figure captures both of those or not. I'm not sure. Becky, have you got any idea of whether that 150,000 is people within Dorset that are retiring, or basically retiring in Dorset?
I don't know is the honest answer. I'll have to check with our research.
No, that's great. That's fine. That's not a problem.
Becky, I'm happy if you have a look at it and just whether you think it's appropriate. It's just something that I'm conscious of the demand on everything as previously said. And I just think worth covering there. And then my final point on page 7 of the report. Looking at the public available charging points in Dorset, 2011 we had 1, 2019 we got 30. What have we got now? I'm just conscious that this document will be a living document, but we are 2 years after that, and we've taken a fantastic step forward with electric charging over the last year, if nothing else. Is there figures for that? If not, then I'll live with what we've got.
I suppose the only way you're going to do that is make some sort of cross-reference to probably our performance indicators or something along those lines. Because once the document is printed, it will be printed at a point in time. So we can obviously put the latest figures in when it goes to print. I say go to print. go to production, because I'd hate to think we're going to send out millions of paper copies of anything.
Hopefully it'll be electronic,
a
Chair.
PDF, yeah.
Thank you. That's me
So,
finished
okay,
now. Thank
so
you.
we capture that. Thank you, Les.
Next is Councillor Bartlett.
Councillor Izzard.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, a really good document, but I would like to see corporate in the title because it is confusing, and I think that's being bandied around, and I think that would be a good title, which it's not fluffy, it's not, doesn't say anything but our overarching plan, which is corporate plan. So I think that would be my suggestion. The other thing is Councillor Fry's suggestion about emphasising on lots of people retired here. That's very true, but the attraction is, and very often is, that the houses here are so expensive, especially along the coast, that actually only retirement people can afford them. So that's the other reason that actually lots of retirement people come here. But as a previous leader of the Dorset County Council said, we get, and I think it was Angus that said, lots of people come and retire and then actually they go on and don't actually, pass away. So we seem to have a longevity here as well. So I think that's something that we ought to emphasise in our well, I think the demographics to say, I know in one of my parishes, I've got 10% of the population is over 85. And I mean, that is quite an enormous amount of people at that age. And I don't know, I haven't looked through the document in detail, but surely the demographics could actually, show that and show that what age groups are not just over 65 but actually down the line. And the support is going to have to be there in the future for them, for care. So anyway, that was just the point I wanted to make. Thank you very much.
I mean, Councillor Wolf mentioned it early in the meeting, the fact that you cannot have lots and lots of detail. Otherwise this document will be like War and Peace, and nobody will read it, and nobody will ever pick it up. I did also mention that a lot of that information is somewhere else in the council, and I think we need to maybe make a cross-reference to the demographics wherever they're held, perhaps some performance indicators or whatever. But to have that information within that document is just it's not feasible at all. Next one is
Councillor Andrew Starr, please, Chair.
Councillor Starr.
Thank you, Chair. I just I was a bit surprised by the option of changing the name at this late stage. I'm not sure if it's the right thing to do, but if we did, I certainly agree with Sherry that the forward Dorset and future Dorset things are inappropriate. And also with Councillor Izzard that Dorset corporate plan would be the one I'd go for, but I'm not 100% sure that we need to do that at all. The only thing I would say about the plan is that we don't blow our trumpet very much about increased cycling provision. That's something that is, a lot of it is coming down the line, I know, and with government money, but it's something that is very relevant to the environmental impact, and I think it's something we can blow our trumpet about a bit more. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Andrew. Bridget, who else have we got? Les, who's next?
Councillor David Taylor, Chair.
David.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Les. 2 points basically for you. I've noticed in the document, which I've discussed before in adult services and other places, is the fact, and you actually mentioned this, Daryl, is the fact of social care, a broad picture across it, as in linking it with the links would be incredibly useful so that we know that the council are covering all bases without actually being included in the document as in like huge paragraphs. I just think links would be incredibly useful for that, so that we make it understood that we are on the care issues of adults, social care, children, vulnerable, etc., etc. But the other thing I did notice that was missing, which is a big thing here, it's on page 20 on paragraph 4, implementing the government's breathing space policy for people struggling with debt and gambling. Gambling is a biggie. And I just thinking it's a massive thing that we're talking about at the moment. It's being kind of put under the carpet, and it's one of those things that need to be brought out because it is getting bigger and bigger in the county and is of major concern. Just 2 points. I hope that's okay.
Yeah, I understand that, David, but and the fact that people are getting into debt, they can be getting into debt for a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, I
And
understand
to
that.
actually put every single one of them there, I think debt covers most of these issues. And again, you know, you're right. I think a link to something like those sort of policies and how we're dealing with that sort of issue will be useful. I mean, we pride ourselves on being a 21st century digital council, so hyperlinks. That's my answer to most things.
Can I?
Have we got anybody else wishing to speak?
Chair, yes, I have. Okay.
Yeah, just to say that the fact of being as though the links would be hyperlinks is a fantastic idea. It's just to give the comfort of the people of the county that there is a way of going to going towards, so they've actually got an ease of finding things out quite simply without the technical difficulties of going through myriads of data. It's just to make it simple. Thank you.
Yeah, understand that, David. Of course, the other thing to bear in mind, if this is a printed document, and you've got to remember that something like 30% of our population are not online for one reason or another.
Yeah.
Once it's printed in there, it won't be hyperlinked. On the
Okay.
PDF, it'll be alive. Councillor Fry.
Chair, next we have Carol Jones. Just before Carol comes in, I just want to check with Peter, Wolf or Bridget whether they wanted to add anything so far to the discussions or debates.
No, I don't. I would like to agree with the comments so far that you need to be careful about changing a name, because then people say, well, I thought you had that. How does this one differ? And it does reduce the brand value. And as I said, I repeat, it needs to be an unambiguous improvement. But I'm very pleased with the content, and I see most of the points that have been made and agreed. I see that Becky can do something to make minor amendments to incorporate what you're suggesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter.
Bridget?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to make the point that Becky's put in the chat bar, because I'm alive to the fact that people on in the live audience won't be able to see our chat bar. So it was just to say the point about the fact that infographics will be updated with the latest data where we can get it. So we are aware that some of those need updating, so we will do that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Bridget. Thank you.
Chair, is Carol Jones now, please.
Carol.
Thanks very much. We've got, I mean, I like this. It all looks great. We've got lots of what we will do, and then obviously how we will do it. But I want to see how we're actually going to measure that, and who's going to take responsibility for the outcomes. Is this all going to be part of the performance tool setup that we were looking at yesterday? Because I just want to make sure that the public can understand that we can very easily measure, we're looking at outcomes, we're trying to improve where we need to, and so on and so forth. So I just think we need to find a way of letting people know how we're going to do that and what we're going to be measured against.
Yeah, I think, to be honest, the performance indicators should carry most of that. It will be up to scrutiny to monitor and scrutinise the performance as we move forward. So that's something for the other committee. Yeah, I don't think Overview will have any great input into that side of life. But again, it's the performance. It's up to scrutiny when they look at those how we are going to do things to actually pull those out, make sure they're in the performance indicators if they're not already there. I suspect that most of them will be there. And Bridget's nodding her head. Bridget, would you just like to confirm that?
Thank you, Chairman. I've put right to speak to say exactly what you've said, so I don't need to. You're exactly right. That's scrutiny will be looking at that.
Thank you.
And it is the tool you saw yesterday, Councillor, that you referred to. Yes.
Lovely. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol.
Chair, I think Peter, did you want to say anything else other than add to what Bridget's already said? Has that been covered?
Only to add, and the fact is that the metrics in the performance measurement were constructed using the council plan as the means of developing those metrics. So if there is a change in the council plan or whatever its successor is, the metrics will be changed to reflect that, and the measuring will be changed. And if scrutiny, or dare I say overview, and I think overview have a role there, feel that things aren't being monitored that are important for policy development, then we can change the methods and the means of measuring. Thanks.
Thanks, Peter.
Right. Chair, next is Sherry Jesperson again.
just before that, the one I've got on my chat bar after Carol Jones is Ray Bryant's comment, review or monitor activity and actions. I don't know what that means, to be quite honest. Ray, are you there?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I was really raising the point that we're talking about reviewing documents, but I think one of the most important things on a live document is to obviously monitor what actions we're taking and the progress we're making. That's the point I was trying to raise, Chairman.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Ray, did you want to say anything whilst you're online about the charging points at all? I see the comment in the chat bar, but obviously people listening can't hear that.
Yes, I mean, we've made some great steps on charging points. We've completed phase 1, or we will have done by the end of this month. We've had all sorts of struggles with electricity supply, and that is an ongoing issue. We're working on phase 2 at the moment, but we're also getting lots of requests from local businesses who have installed their charging points to have their charging points made available to the public. And it's something I've asked the officers to look at. In fact, I met with the officers on, where am I this week? Tuesday, to discuss this exact point, because we do need to get some speed going on this. And I'm very pleased to report back that the businesses will be included, but now we're getting offers from people who have installed charging points at their home, that they have no problem with neighbours, for instance, using their charging points if they can't get charging points themselves, or they have a visitor arrive in a car that needs charging. This needs sorted out with the individuals. It's not for the council to get involved because that's personal, but I do think the businesses become quite a good link to our own plan. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Ray. Thank you. Ray. Oh, I would just mention that there is a app you can download on your phone where you can actually gives you the information of various charging private charging points. And I know there is a town councillor in Lyme who actually offers these to anybody who's down on holiday, so that there is a system in place nationally already. So maybe we can look at that and tap into that. Les, who we got next?
If I may, Chairman, can I just add, I've asked for that to be put on our web page when we're ready, because you're absolutely right. There is a national record of where these charging points are, and we need to link into that to become part of the national record.
Yep, thank you. Excellent.
Chair, next and last to speak at the moment is Councillor Sherry Jesperson.
Sherry.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just feel I need to say to say I'm really not happy with the tone of the discussion we were having earlier about people who moving to Dorset on retirement, and I just want to say that I see it very, very differently than that. Almost because of our house prices, by definition, the people who tend to retire here tend to be financially self-sufficient and healthy, and they make an absolutely enormous contribution to community life. People who retire here are very largely the people that keep our community and are functioning out in the rural areas, and they are greatly valued and greatly and we're very pleased to have them, and we're very pleased to have their spend in Dorset. Most of them will never make any calls on our adult social care provision because they are likely to always be self-funders, and indeed they are, because they are self-funders, they are subsidising the provision of adult social care to our own Dorset residents. So I don't agree, and I don't see it, that the people moving to Dorset in retirement are a problem. I think they make a great contribution. There is no evidence that they are a burden on Dorset Council services. I think we will find that they are net contributors, and I think we need to be careful in the language we use when we talk about a very significant number of our residents who, in my view, are very welcome in Dorset and make a great contribution. And I just feel that I would like us to tone our language down when we discuss this, please. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Sherry, but I don't remember or recalling anybody saying that anybody retiring to Dorset were a problem or a burden. Those are your words. So yeah, thank you for the point taken.
Chair, I've got nobody else to speak at the moment. Councillor Starr has put a comment in the chat bar. That I'm comfortable with everything certainly I've said so far, and there's nobody else wishing to speak at this moment.
Okay, thank you for that. The only thing I suppose outstanding, because you've captured those comments, is the name of this plan. I think there's a lot of comments saying basically why should we be changing it. I'm of that opinion. I don't see any reason to change it. Do we want a straw poll, or are we content the fact that the committee recommends?
Chair, my concern here is I understand what the Dorset plan is, but we've also got the Dorset local plan, and it's all been said before. But what we understand, it's a bit like somebody having a TV delivered, and the instruction book's written by the people who designed it. They understand it. Perhaps the person reading it doesn't. And I think we should look at what the message is we're sending out to the public, who we want to distribute, make the difference between the Dorset local plan and the Dorset council plan, and any confusion they may have. So Bridget's now asked to speak, Chair.
I think the only one looking at that list of 4 possibilities is perhaps to just throw in that word corporate, which might make a difference. But I think, to be honest, most of the people won't probably understand which plan means which anyway, regardless.
Bridget's asked to speak, and then Shane.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to say, listening to the debate, I think I've heard, and I was just wanting to play this back, I think I've heard 2 clear views. People seem to be saying either leave it as the Dorset Council plan or change it to the Dorset Council corporate plan. I was going to make a suggestion, Chairman, if you like, which is that we could put a recommendation to Cabinet that it chooses one of those 2, because there seemed to be sort of quite even debate here, unless you wanted to take a vote on it in your committee.
No, I think you're right. That's the flavour I capture as well. So we'll leave it. If members are content, we will do just that and put forward those 2 options to Cabinet. Is there anybody not agreeing with that? I hear nobody, so that's what we'll do. Becky, if you can just capture that and put that forward to Cabinet, that'd be great.
Chair, we've got Councillor Shane Bartlett wishing to speak.
Shane. Are you there? You're there.
Sorry, apologies, Chairman. Apologies for coming much late into your debate on this item, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I just want to speak to something with my scrutiny head on. On page 11, excuse me, it talks about areas of deprivation within Dorset, and it names several areas there, basically all of which are known to me, and I have a concern about actually naming specific areas within this report. Some of these areas, if I take the one that's in my ward, Lyde Park, I know for a fact that is within 65% private ownership. My concern is that if we actually name these areas, we could impact house pricing in those areas. I don't think there is a need to name specific areas within that report.
No, that's an interesting point, Shane. Because we have recently received the tables of areas of deprivation across the council area only a week or 2 ago. So again, that information is captured elsewhere. So yeah, I'd probably agree with that. If we remove those names and again put a link into the information somewhere else, if people do wish to delve into that. Are any members dissenting against doing that? No, that's good. Okay, we will do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, I think rather than go over all the stuff we've done already, I minded 2 committee recommendations. We made the final comments as far as we're concerned, which will go to Cabinet, and the minded 2 points have been captured by Becky. So I think if every member is content, we will go to the executive director just to confirm the minded 2 recommendations or the minded 2 discussions of the committee, and that director is Aidan Dunn. Aidan, are you content with those items that have been captured and to be put forward to Cabinet?
Yes, Chair, I am content. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Aidan. Okay, that's good. Excellent stuff. Moving through item 7, which is the commercial strategy, commissioning and procurement overview. Let me just capture that one. Okay. We've got the portfolio holders, Councillor Gary Suttle, who's not able to attend the meeting. Director is Aidan Dunn, the Executive Director for Corporate Development, and the reporting officer is Dawn Adams. Dawn, if you'd like to report on your report, please.
Chair, would you mind if I just said a few introductory remarks?
Yes, no,
on behalf
sorry,
of Dawn. Sorry to cut across, Dawn. No, that's okay.
We did agree that, and I've totally forgot about it.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So good morning, everybody. I'm Aidan Dunn, the Executive Director for Corporate Development. So last September, Dorset Council Cabinet approved a procurement strategy. So not that long ago, but as we're all sort of feeling and seeing, since that time, the world has moved on quite considerably. So November, in 2 months' time, we're planning to take an updated version of that procurement strategy. And so this is an opportunity to discuss that and to shape that. The reason we're moving the procurement strategy on, or would like to, is that first of all, we want to try and move from merely a procurement mindset into a commercial mindset, so sort of broaden the scope and the remit of the strategy. But secondly, since EU exit, the rules and regulations, the national and indeed European rules around procurement regulations have changed, and we want to keep pace with those changes, so it's important that we update the document for that reason. So this agenda item is an opportunity for the committee to help shape that commercial strategy ahead of it going to Cabinet in November. So just in terms of context, our commercial strategy we think is really, really important to the council for a number of reasons. First of all, it's around about half of the council's spend goes through suppliers, so it's external spend as opposed to on staffing, for example. So how we select those suppliers and how we work with those suppliers is really, really important to us. Secondly, as an organisation, we generate a whole range of income every year, be that through council tax and business rates, but also through the various charges we levy, be that car parking or rental income, as well as social care charging as well. So our approach to charging and income generation is really important. We need to sort of set a tone around that. But also, as one of the key employers in Dorset, as one of the bigger organisations, we have a real role and I'd say responsibility in about supporting the local economy. So how do we spend our money locally is a big challenge to us, and we've tried to capture that in the strategy as well. And then all of this is underpinned by this idea that although we're not necessarily a business, we try and be business-like and commercially minded as an organisation as well. Value for money is at the heart of everything we do. So we've tried to capture all those factors and thoughts in the updated document that we've provided in front of you. So really this is an opportunity for the committee to share their views. In order to help that, we've prepared 2 versions of the draft strategy. So one version is the markups showing the changes from the current version into the proposed version, and then we've got a cleaner, slightly more readable version. And as you say, in order to help us through that conversation, we've got Jim McManus, who's our Corporate Director for Finance and Commercial, and the report author and our real subject matter expert on this, Dawn Adams, who's the Service Manager for Commercial and Procurement. And of course, we've got Peter Wharf, Councillor Peter Wharf, Deputy Leader, who's on hand to share some views if required as well. So if I may, I'll hand back to you, Chair, to sort of host the conversation about shaping this document and shaping our commercial strategy. Thank you.
Thank you, Aidan. Thank you. I have to agree with you. I think this document is a major improvement on the last one, and it brings in all the national changes that we've seen in recent months. I did note one thing. What I feel is one of the most important paragraphs is on page 43. And it's note 0521. It says that the contracting authority procurement activity must support the delivery of national public sector priorities, including generating economic growth, helping our communities recover from COVID-19, and supporting the transition to net zero carbon. Absolutely captures everything as far as I'm concerned. It's a fantastic little paragraph, that. Okay, if Dawn is not making a report now, over to members. Members, questions to officers, please.
Chair, the first one is Councillor Cherry Brooks.
Cherry.
Thank you very much. I'm not sure whether there might be a typo somewhere in the document. When I was reading it yesterday, it referred to SMEs as 205 employees. Has that gone down, or is it still 250? Could somebody just check anyway? And
yeah, I think that's easy. Where nobody's going to have that at the top of the head, but yeah, we capture that with
and the other thing is that if when I was looking at the picture, the questionnaire on going out to visit employers about what they can offer, I think it's on page 23 of, it's page 100 of our report, but page 23 of that report. It talks very generally about what an employer will offer, how many apprenticeship places, how many jobs, but they're not smart in the question, so they can't be contract managed. So I just wondered whether we could do a bit of tightening up and put some smart objectives around any questions that we make to people. And that was it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, Cherry. I saw Aidan nodding then, so I presume Dawn would be capturing those sorts of comments. I must admit, I do like the track document. I love to see where we've come from and what the amendments and changes are. I think it works well within the report. Dawn, you just come up. Have you got anything you wish to add? You're on mute, Dawn.
Yes,
That's
sorry.
the first time I've said that today.
Oh, I'm sure you'll say it again. Yeah. Going back to the comment, Councillor Sherring-Brooks, reason we haven't got smart there, because this is where the tenderer puts their offer in, and we actually need to have the question and those questions there flexible enough so actually small companies can see where they fit compared to big companies. So, you know, we could put some smart objectives in, but we have to really tailor it to the tender exercise we're doing and what market we're doing attracting. We don't want to over labour a supplier if they're just a small company when they're probably not tendering very often.
Okay, thank you for that, Dawn.
Good point, though.
Could I just come back on that to clarify? Would you?
Yep, Cherry, far away.
It just there's no time scales around it. So if somebody's tendering and the question says, how many jobs are you going to do? How many CVs are you going to support? There's no time scales in it. So it could be 3 months, 3 years, 30 years. It's that sort of thing that I was looking at.
I expect it would be good if you can actually say during the length of the contract, so it's actually referring to the contract in question and they can see how it relates to what they're tendering. So good point.
Excellent. Thank you for that, Dawn. Thank you, Cherry. Les.
Chair, thank you. I spoke to Dawn as we discussed yesterday about the points to Dawn, but none of these will come as any surprises. I have a few points there. First is page 53, please. Should we have our Dorset Council values in the middle of that chart or somewhere there as a little egg in there, because our values are important and they should reflect everything we do and whatever we do. So should they be in there? Dawn, do you want to comment?
Yes, I think that's what, as I said to Councillor Fry, I thought it was a really good idea. I think it's actually links it all together. So yes, we'll take that on board and try and bring that into the illustration.
Perfect, thank you. Page 55. Looking at our objectives down there, just towards the bottom of the page there. Place the best people by encouraging internal career development at all levels, as well as recruiting the best external expertise where needed. Now, from personal experience and other people's friends' personal experience, the number of times external applicants go for a job only to find out they don't get it and there has been an internal applicant already lined up for that job. Whether there's a line in there, whether it's an HR issue, I just think we need to manage that one to get the best person for the job, whether it's internal or external, but not to give external people that think that they're going to get the job when there's already somebody lined up for it.
Yes, as we discussed, I think I need to pull in some reference of HR policy into that. Obviously, I was thinking about putting a hyperlink, but of course the hyperlink is internal, so that'd be no good for the public. So we need to actually make sure the officer's referring to the correct policy internally.
Perfect, thank you.
Excellent. Thank you, Dawn.
Page 56. Page 56. We talk about the objectives and effective commissioning there. The implications of not being effective. Should there be a line there or something? Comment.
Dawn?
Yeah, well, and what sort of line would you like to have? Also, or actually, yes, I'll have a think about that. I think what we could put into, say, when do we know it's effective, and what do we do when it's not effective?
How do you measure that if we're effective?
Well, you actually get what you achieve. That's when effective commissioning. In fact, you get what you achieve. If the commissioning is not effective, you're going to get a poor outcome. So I think I probably need to have some thought to expand on that to try and reflect how we're going to measure it.
I mean, I could go and buy a car tomorrow, but do I get the best value for that car? How are we effective? Is it best value, the effective we can get our aim, we can get our product or purchase?
Yes.
But how do we know we've been effective and got the best price for the public purse?
Yeah, well, certainly the actual again, this is around that best value. The discussion we had about best value, isn't it? Is actually you got to have the best value. It starts at effective commissioning. Is actually understanding what you're going to commission, how you're going to achieve it, how do you know you've got the right outcome, and that's part of the planning right at the outset. If you get that wrong, the procurement is not going to achieve what you want. You've got to get that planning. So you have to understand what does best value look like at that point. Then the procurement, everybody thinks the answer is in the procurement. Yes, it can be. We can get a really good offers in, but what best value is going to be achieved in the robust contract management, ensure what the tender has been offered and what you've commissioned is actually being delivered. And that's the key part of all of this, is actually ensuring the supply is delivering what you want, what you actually sought at the outset.
That's perfect. Dawn, happy with that. If some sort of comments there will be appropriate if you think relevant there.
Thank you.
Thank you. 64. Dawn, this was one we discussed yesterday.
Yes.
Scrolling down a minute. My page is not moving as quick as it could do. Again, this may link more into HR policies. You've got age, disability, gender reassignment, marriage, and so on there. Where do we go into the supporting females with around the menopause and period and that sort of stuff?
Yeah, I think this is where we need to actually, this is policies, this is where we need to have a link to the quality diversity policy that is on the council website, and to ensure that, and this questions actually was owned by the quality and diversity officers. We make sure that and part of this is actually just checking they're still happy with that question and make sure they update it with me should it change.
Brilliant.
Perfect.
Brilliant.
Thank you.
Excellent.
And my last point, perhaps closest to my heart, page 67.
Yeah.
67.
Mitigating fraud and corruption risks. So if fraud takes place, what is Dorset Council going to do about it?
Yes, okay, again, we agreed we need to have a action line on there. What action should the officer take if they identified any fraud, anything like corruption? So what do we need to do? So we talked about having just a line there saying what the action we expect the officer to do to move that forward, as like investigate it, report it to the police, etc. So I'll probably like to work with legal to get appropriate wording in there. That's actually what would really happen on the stages if an officer identifies something.
Thanks, Dawn. That's perfect. Be under no illusions, not everybody knows what to do when they come against an issue like that. Firstly, perhaps they don't recognise it as fraud, and then they don't know what to do. So setting out some channels there or ideas would be helpful for them. And that's my list. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Les. All good stuff. Like I said, I know we talked about it yesterday, and we had some answers lined up ready for that, which is all good stuff.
Dawn, really good. Thank you for your help there.
Yeah,
thank you.
Brilliant. Excellent. Thank you.
And at the moment, there's nobody else to speak, Chair.
I've got John Selgren down on mine, on my chat bar.
I've got a red dot. He put a comment in, but actually not typed anything yet. So whether
I've got
he wants to say
RTS
hello
on mine. I've got RTS in black on mine.
I have. There's something a bit odd about the way it's presenting on my screen and possibly on yours. But if I
far away, John.
Just want to come back on that question of definition raised by Councillor Brooks. She's quite correct that the government does have a standard definition in terms of SMEs. It's the 250 criteria in terms of employment. But when applying that measure to that categorisation of company size, the government also applies a turnover threshold as well. So what I'll happily do is supply that to Lindsay outside the meeting. I think Dawn has already got that, but Chairman, I'll make sure that does get picked up. But Councillor Brooks was quite right to raise it and quite right in the way she described it.
Excellent, John. Thank you for that input.
Thanks, Chair. Next is Councillor Shane Bartlett, please.
Shane.
Thank you, Chairman. Really good reports. But some time ago, I did ask a question in Cabinet surrounding obviously economies of scale in terms of procurement, and whether there was the ability for Dorset Council to work with our parish and town councils in procurement, and to enable town and parish councils to be able to buy probably at a cheaper rate if they were doing that through Dorset Council. I couldn't see anything in the report, and I just wondered whether there's any thoughts on that with the officers, or whether we have something in train now on that.
So you're talking about improving all town and parish councils' buying power, I suppose. Dawn, have we got anything on that?
My button isn't sticking again. I go, hello, sorry, back again. Yes, I think this was raised with me actually, and we said we need to, when we actually ahead of a procurement exercise, we need to consider whether we wish to offer it up to others in collaboration with others, because under the law we have to name them at the point of tender, so they can't join us once the framework or contracts in play. But whether we at certain contracts we feel that Sanford was doing so for stationery, but we don't. It may be the fact it was wanted to do our own contract for stationery, and we may want to offer that up to parish and town council or others, even in the southwest. So yes, there's opportunities.
Brilliant, thank you. With particular, what I had in mind, Chairman, was with particular regards to play equipment, which is very expensive, which usually is within the confines of the local parish and town councils to look up those recreation grounds. But Dorset Council would obviously have a greater spending power, so it'd be really good if the parish and town councils were able to buy through Dorset Council. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Shane. I think the first thing that came through my mind is electric vehicles. They should be the future, and the buying power that probably town and parish councils would have if they're added to our buying power would be quite immense. So yeah, lots of options there, but we've got that covered. Okay, anybody else wishing to speak?
Chair, nobody else at this moment has indicated.
Well, we've got the recommendations as written. The change of title to Commercial Strategy Commission Procurement. I've heard no mention or questions about that. I can't see any issues with it. We've got the consideration that refers principles rather than objectives, which is already made in the track document. Be more commercially minded. Oh yes, please. Introduction to objectives, principles, and effective commissioning. We've heard about that, and it's written in the document. The National Procurement Policy Statement, which obviously we're adhering to. It's at an early stage of commissioning a clear and concise business case, which Dawn mentioned just then. Aidan, you've come up on screen. Is there anything else you'd like to sort of round up with?
Well, first of all, to say thank you for the committee for their input. That's very helpful, and we've taken some edits away there. So the next steps on this, if you as a committee agree it or minded to agree it, and I'm going to acknowledge that, then we'll take those edits and then bring that forward into the cabinet paper in November that's currently scheduled. So thank you.
Excellent, thank you, Aidan. Then it is up to us to recommend to Cabinet our minded to decisions and the recommendations 1 to 6 as written. Anybody against that? Then we move that forward in such a way. Aidan, the minded to recommendation you've just heard, as Executive Director for Corporate Development, are you minded to take that forward?
Yes, I confirm that I'm minded to take that forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aidan.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to agenda item 8, the Place and Resources Forward Plan. Now I've looked at this, we've obviously got a fairly busy October meeting with the potential for another topic coming on board. I've looked at the Cabinet's forward plan and can't see anything there that's of any great interest to overview, but I'm happy to take questions about the forward plan or recommendations to add to the forward plan. Members? No, I hear nothing. Okay, we'll accept the forward plan as is. Obviously, we will continue in the background to build on that. And if members,
Chair Aidan would like to speak, please.
Yes.
Sorry, Chair. Just can I flag a potential topic, because we haven't formally put it on the Cabinet forward plan at the moment. We've got a lot of work going on, and that's about the future arrangements for the revenues and benefits service for Dorset Council. So we're looking to put that on the forward plan before Christmas, but clearly we'd value your committee's input. We're just trying to get our timing laid out. We're not going to be available, or we won't be we haven't completed the work ahead of your next meeting in October. So can I just put a little marker about is there an opportunity for a potential extra meeting, possibly in November, around the future revenues and benefits service for Dorset Council residents?
We have the December meeting on the 16th.
I think in terms of sequencing for Cabinet is the issue, so that's potentially too late. But if I could just flag that with you and then speak and coordinate offline with yourself and committee services, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah,
Thank
no
you.
problems at all. Thank you. We moved through item 8, which was the plan, with no comments. Item 9 is urgent items, and there are none. Item 10 is exempt business, and there is none. And therefore I will close the meeting at 11:05. And thank you very much for all the input and the information that we've gained from that. Thank you.
Thank you, Daryl.